Welcome to the Daily Current Affairs by Civics and IAS, where we try to discuss the top 10 important topics for the day for the prelims for the UPSC CSE 2025. Displayed a list of topics which we have chosen for today's discussion. The first article of the day says that the ISRO with the Navy successfully carried out the well-decked trials of the Gaganyaan mission's crew module. In this context, we'll talk about the Gaganyaan mission. See, the Gaganyaan mission project envisages human space flight capability by launching a crew of 3 members to an orbit of 400 kilometers for a 3 days mission and bring them back safely to the Earth by landing in the Indian Sea waters. Significantly, the success of the Gaganyaan mission will put India in the elite group of nations of United States, Russia and China having human space flight capability. Now, there are two main objectives of the mission. Firstly, to undertake human space flights, and secondly, space exploration. Now, moving on to talk about the launch. See, a modified version of ISRO's most reliable rocket, which is the LVM-3, the 3-stage heavy lift vehicle, previously called the GSLV Mark III, is the launching vehicle for the Gaganyaan mission. Now, what are the payloads of it? See, the Gaganyaan mission's payloads will consist of a crew module carrying, which is the spacecraft carrying human beings, and the service module powered by 2 liquid propellant engines. Know that it will be equipped with emergency escape and emergency mission abort. And furthermore, there is an orbital module which will be orbiting the Earth, comprising the crew module and the service module. Now, if we have to talk particularly about the crew module, see, it is a habitable space with an Earth-like environment for the on-board crew members. Furthermore, it will consist of a human habitable module with a control system for the mission, crew communication, navigation, guidance and avionics system. Now, what about the service module? See, it will be used for providing necessary support to the crew module while in the orbit. Also, it is an unpressurized structure containing propulsion system, thermal system, power systems, avionics systems and deployment mechanisms. Furthermore, the crew escape system which is provided is to ensure the astronaut safety. Various in-flight abort demonstrations of crew escape systems have been included. Then, with respect to the flight test vehicle abort mission, CT is the first of the 2 abort missions to test the safety mechanisms and demonstrates the performance of crew escape system of Gaganyaan mission. This has also confirmed that the functioning of systems for separating the crew module from the rocket in case of a mid-flight emergency. Hence, it will allow the Gaganyaan crew to leave the spacecraft in an emergency situation. The second article of the day says that female labor force participation rate increased in almost all states in India during 2017-18 to 2022-23, with rural areas seeing larger gains than urban areas. A new working paper released by the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister stated. In this context, we'll talk about the LFPR, the findings from the study, and later what are the initiatives taken to improve the female labor force participation rate in India. See, what is a labor force? See, labor force according to the CWS is the number of persons either employed or unemployed on average in a week preceding the date of survey. Now, the labor force participation rate is defined as the percentage of the population in the labor force. Furthermore, the female labor force participation rate refers to women over 15 years who are either working or looking for a job. Now, if you have to look at the findings of the study, firstly, with respect to interstate variation in the female rate, see the states with low LFPR or Bihar, Punjab and Haryana. Then if we look at the trends in the female LFPR in these years, which is 2017-18 to 2022-23, in the LFPR in rural areas increased from 24.6% to 41.5%, whereas in urban areas, it is increased from 20.4% to 25.4%. Then, what are the other key observations we have made? Firstly, the rise in the female FPR is consistent even when unpaid family workers or helpers in household enterprises are included. Secondly, the increase in the female LFPR has been more pronounced in the rural areas compared to urban areas. And lastly, the rise began post 2017-18 even before the COVID pandemic. But the criticism for the recent LFPR growth is that a significant portion of the increase is attributed to unpaid family work, raising questions about the quality of participation. Now, the government has taken several initiatives to improve this female LFPR in India. The first one with respect is the codification of labor laws like the Code of Wages of 2019, then the Industrial Relations Code of 2020, then the Code on Social Security for 2020, and then the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code of 2020. Then there are other schemes and programs like the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme, which ensures the survival, safety and education of the female children. Then we have the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act of 2013, which provides a safe working spaces and redressal mechanisms for sexual harassment. Next, we have the Working Women Hostel Scheme, where the financial assistance for construction or expansion of hostels for working women in urban, rural and semi-urban areas. Also, we have the One Stop Center and Women Helpline, which provides 24/7 emergency response for women affected by violence. Then we have the Skill India Mission, which provides training for women through Women Industrial Training Institutes, National Vocational Training Institutes, and Regional Vocational Training Institutes. Lastly, we have the employment generation programs like the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, where at least 1/3 of the jobs under the scheme are reserved for women. The third article of the day says that the Securities and Exchange Board of India said that top 500 stocks listed on the exchanges will be eligible for the same day settlement cycle, which is at T+0 in a phased manner. Furthermore, these stocks will be available for settlement from January 31st of 2025. Then while the SEBI move is aimed at speeding up the settlement cycle, which currently stands at T+1, the same day settlement cycle will continue to be optional. So in this context, we'll talk about the T in settlement cycles. See, the T in settlement cycles within the financial markets refers to the day on which a transaction or the trade takes place. In this context, T represents the transaction date. Then the settlement cycle denoted as T+N specifies the number of days after the transaction date by which the settlement or the completion of trade occurs. Now, what is a T+0 settlement? It means that the funds and the securities for a transaction will be settled on the day the trade was entered. Then the T+0 settlement cycle will now be offered as an alternative alongside T+1. Now, what are the advantages of this T+0 settlement? Firstly, instant receipt of funds and securities to the investor. Secondly, it will eliminate the risk of any kind of settlement shortage and give greater control over the funds and securities to the investor. There is expected to be lower counterparty risk and increased liquidity in the market. Next, in 2002, the regulator cut down the settlement period from T+5 to T+3, and in 2003, SEBI further reduced it to 3+2. In 2021, the T+1 settlement started and was gradually implemented with the final phase completed in January 2023. Now, if you have to talk about the T+1 settlement plan, see, the T+1 settlement cycle means that the trade-related settlements must be done within a day or 24 hours of the completion of a transaction. The fourth article of the day says that Kerala continues to lead as one of the most employable states in India, as indicated by the India Skills Report 2025. In this context, we'll talk about the report. See, the India Skills Report 2025, developed by the VBox in collaboration with the Confederation of Indian Industry, the All India Council for Technical Education, and the Association of Indian Universities, provides a comprehensive analysis of India's employability landscape and its evolving role in the global talent market. Now, what are the key highlights of this 2025 report? Firstly, the employability rate among the Indian graduates has increased to 54.81% in 2025, up from 51.25% in the previous year, indicating a positive trend in the workforce readiness. Secondly, with the 65% of the workforce under 35 years old, India is well positioned to meet the global industry demands, particularly in the regions such as Gulf nations, Southeast Asia, Europe, and Africa. Thirdly, the Indian professionals are making significant strides in technology, healthcare, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence, driving innovation and economic growth both domestically as well as internationally. Furthermore, the states like the Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Delhi, along with the cities such as Pune, Bengaluru, and Mumbai, have emerged as the leading centers for employable talent, reflecting regional strengths in education and industry alignment. Then, lastly, the women now constitute 47.53% of the employable talent pool, highlighting the progress toward a more balanced workforce. Significantly, the report emphasizes India's potential to address global workforce demands, advocating the quality skill training and internationally certified programs to enhance global employability. So, furthermore, initiatives like the Skill India Mission and the National Education Policy of 2020 have been instrumental in improving the employability by focusing on vocational and industry-aligned education. The next article says that the Centre's One Nation, One Subscription scheme will more than triple the number of state-affiliated colleges and individuals who can access the research papers in the sciences and humanities from the world's top publishers. In this context, we'll talk about One Nation, One Subscription, in short called the ONOS. Launched by the Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, this scheme is a central sector scheme which was launched with an objective to provide country-wide access to scholarly research articles and journal publications for higher education institutions and research and development laboratories. If you have to look at the key features, firstly, the duration of the scheme is 3 calendar years, which is 2025 to 2027. Then, with respect to the administration, know that it is managed through a unified digital portal which is coordinated by the InflibNet, which is an autonomous inter-university center under UGC. Furthermore, it covers over 6,300 institutions, including higher education institutions under central and state governments and R&D laboratories of the central government. Then, with respect to the beneficiaries, nearly 1.8 crore students, faculty and researchers are expected to be benefited under it. Then, what are the benefits provided under the scheme? Firstly, it ensures universal access to scholarly journals and articles for students and researchers across the country. Secondly, it promotes interdisciplinary research and inclusion of Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in research and development. Lastly and significantly, it aligns with the Viksit Bharat of 2047, National Education Policy 2020 and Anusandhan National Research Foundation goals. Here is the implementation mechanism of the scheme. You can have a look. The next article says that Centre has announced that it will bear the additional cost of 425.62 crore rupees on account of inflation in the food material cost under the centrally sponsored PM POSHAN scheme in the financial year 2024-25. In this context, we'll talk about the scheme. The PM POSHAN, which stands for Pradhan Mantri Poshan Shakti Nirman, earlier known as the National Program of Middle Scheme in Schools, is a rights-based centrally sponsored scheme under the National Food Security Act of 2013. Significantly, it aims to improve the nutritional status of children in classes 1 to 8 in eligible schools across India. Now, if you have to look at the key objectives, firstly, to enhance the nutritional intake of children in the government and government-aided schools. Secondly, to encourage children from disadvantaged backgrounds to attend school regularly and focus better in classes. And lastly, providing nutritional support to children in areas affected by drought or disasters during the summer vacation. Then, what are the different financial support mechanisms and the components? Firstly, the food grains are supplied at NFSA rate, which is 1 rupee per kg for coarse grams, 2 rupees for wheat and 3 rupees for rice. Then, a supply of 100 grams per child per day for the primary and 150 grams for the upper primary is done. And if you have to look at the cooking cost, so the primary cooking cost for the primary level is the 4.97 rupees per child per day, whereas the upper primary is 7.45 rupees per child per day. And a honorarium of 1000 per month for 10 months is provided to the cook cum helpers. Then, with respect to transportation assistance also, the cost for the transporting food grains from FCI to go down to schools and a maximum for 1500 rupees per MT for most states is given. Then, know that with respect to management, monitoring and evaluation, 3% of the total cost is given. Then the provision of meals during the summer vacation in drought and disaster affected areas, and then we have the kitchen cum store, kitchen devices and repairs to the kitchen cum stores, food fortification provisions also. Then there is scope for flexibility and innovation, where 5% innovation or flexibility component is there with no additional budget, met from available funds and it is funded from the aggregate costs. Then if we have to look at the additional provisions, firstly, meals for the preparatory classes, which is Balvatika, provision of meals to preparatory classes before class 1 under the Samadra Shiksha scheme, and also support for the vulnerable children, where focus is on disadvantaged sections to enhance both hunger relief and education outcomes. The next article says that the United Nations on Tuesday recognized ecologist Madhav Gadgil with the annual Champions of the Award, which is the UN's highest environmental honor for his seminal work in the Western Ghats. Know that the panel recommended in 2011 that the entire hill range be declared an ecologically sensitive area and divided into 3 ecologically sensitive zones. In this context, we'll look at what eco-sensitive zones are. See, the eco-sensitive zones, also called the ecologically fragile areas, are the areas surrounding protected areas like national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Know that these zones act as buffers, mitigating external impacts on the core protected regions and maintaining ecological balance. Now, if you have to look at the legal framework related to it, see, the ESZs is rooted in the Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Furthermore, Section 3, Clause 2, Subclause 5 empowers the central government to restrict areas where certain industries or operations may be prohibited or regulated. Additionally, the Rule 5, Clause 1 of the Environmental Protection Rules of 1986 allows government to impose restrictions based on environmental considerations. Now, we have 3 main objectives of ESZs. Firstly, they serve as transition zones between highly protected areas and regions with lesser protection, reducing negative external influences. Secondly, they help preserve the rich biodiversity by regulating activities that could harm the environment. And lastly, ESZs promote sustainable development by allowing eco-friendly activities while restricting harmful ones. Now, with respect to the guidelines and regulations, see, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has issued guidelines for the declaration of ESZs, which are: firstly, the extent of an ESZ is determined based on the unique ecological and environmental characteristics of the area. Secondly, activities within them are categorized as prohibited, regulated, or permissible, ensuring that the development does not compromise ecological integrity. And lastly, involving local communities and stakeholders in the planning and management of ESZs to ensure effective conservation. The next article says that hundreds of people, mostly women and students, took out a rally in Manipur's capital Imphal against the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and civilian killings by alleged terrorists. In this context, we'll talk about it. See, this act extends to the states of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Mizoram, Manipur, Meghalaya, Nagaland, and Tripura. Know that the governor, the administrator, or the central government may declare a state or part of it as a disturbed area by notification in the region if the region is in a disturbed or dangerous condition, requiring the use of armed forces to assess civil powers. Now, if you have to look at the special powers of the armed forces under it, firstly, in a disturbed area, any commissioned officer, warrant officer, non-commissioned officer, or equivalent can firstly use force, which means fire upon or use force against anyone acting in contravention of the law after due warning to maintain public order. Or secondly, destroy armed positions, training camps, or shelters used by the gangs or absconders. Thirdly, can arrest individuals suspected of committing or planning to commit cognizable offences and use necessary force to do so. Then enter premises to arrest persons or seize arms, ammunition, or stolen property with necessary force. But notably, any person arrested under this act must be handed over to the nearest police station with a report of the circumstances of the arrest. Furthermore, no legal proceedings can be initiated against any person acting under this act without prior sanction from the central government. The next article talks about the AgeXtend, which is an AI-based discovery tool for anti-aging molecules. In this context, we'll talk about it. See, it is related to a research institution which is the Andhra Prastha Institute of Information Technology of Delhi, and it is published in Nature Aging. Know that the objective of it is to discover molecules promoting healthy aging using artificial intelligence. So the key innovation is that AgeXtend is a platform that efficiently identifies these molecules with anti-aging properties. Now, if you have to talk about the key features of AgeXtend, firstly, with respect to the functionality, see, it predicts and identifies compounds with anti-aging properties. Secondly, it assesses safety and biological effects of the compounds. And lastly, it explains the mechanisms behind the anti-aging properties of identified compounds. Further, it has a unique capability, which is, unlike other tools, AgeXtend explains why certain molecules are considered geroprotective, guiding further research. So the analogy is given to describe it as a GPS for navigating the vast chemical space to find anti-aging molecules. The next article says that the various government schemes or programs of the government of India are meant for the welfare of farmers by increasing the production, remunerated returns, and income support because agriculture being a state subject of the government of India. And furthermore, the Union Cabinet has approved the following programs. Firstly, Clean Plant Program, where the objective is to provide disease-free planting material to enhance horticulture crop quality and productivity. So the key benefits are it promotes adoption of climate resilient, high yielding varieties. Then we have the Digital Agriculture Mission to support digital infrastructure, digital agriculture initiatives through an umbrella scheme. So the key features are firstly creation of digital public infrastructure, secondly digital general crop estimation survey, and lastly IT initiatives by central and state governments and academic institutions. Furthermore, progressive expansion of the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund scheme, which was launched with an objective to strengthen agriculture infrastructure and expand eligible projects. And these are the key features under the scheme. Then we have the National Mission on Edible Oils or the oilseeds, and we have the National Mission on Natural Farming with the objective to promote sustainable and natural farming practices. And these are the other key programs initiated in 2024-25. So in this video, we have discussed 10 articles in total for today. We'll be back again with another video tomorrow. Thank you.